there YouTube and welcome to this month's Horror Talk. So, probably the last Horror Talk in this sort of location as I'm moving and, well, I'll be then doing them in another room, in another house and that. Anyway, welcome to this month's Horror Talk. I'm Random Ross and today, this month, my retrospective discussion is on the American Horror Story series. So this is a horror anthology, erotic thriller drama series created by Ryan Murphy and Brad Felchuk. And this is a anthology. This is a show that's about 10 years old now. 10 years old. So far there have been 9 seasons and they have a 10th one that is upcoming. Well, there's 9 seasons at the time of this video's filming. There is going to be a 10th season, but it's obviously been delayed and filming and what have you because of, well, the crazy year 2020 was with the coronavirus pandemic. So I'll be just discussing and going over the first 9 seasons of the show. So let's get going into it. So it started in 2011, and the first season was just titled American Horror Story, later renamed The Murder House. This followed a family that moved into the house where they had the neighbour. By the way, this show stars many famous faces such as Jessica Lange in the first 4 seasons, Sarah Paulson, Kathy Bates from season 3, Emma Roberts, Tisa Farmiga, Evan Peters, so many actors in this series playing different roles every season. So that's what. Yeah, it's because it's an anthology series. So the first season takes place in a house which in the past has had grisly murders take place from whoever lived there, and the family, slowly descend into this whole rabbit hole of supernatural madness and torture until they realise that they are now haunting the house at the very end. The murder house was actually, a real building in Los Angeles, I believe, and it was used for many filmings, including an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in season 4. Now, when I rewatched that in the summertime of 2020, I was like, hey, that is the murder house, and I got right excited by that, just knowing that. And of course, they took some historical facts as well, like the Black Dahlia murder, and other, and these also had some guest stars in there too. And then, of course, in season 1, one of the most memorable things one of the things that I remember from it was the Gimp Men in this, the Leather Men. So yeah. That was a great first season, and I very much enjoyed that one, and I'm also going to be ranking these seasons as I go along. So, American Horror Story The Murder House, season 1, I'm going to put that at number 4 in my rankings of the American Horror Story seasons. I thought while I do my horror retrospectives, I thought rank up different installments. So there's the first installment of season 1. So number 4, The Murder House, season 1. So after the success of that season, creators Ryan and Brad decided to take the show in a anthology route. Decided to go in the route of anthology and come up with a different story and a theme. Now, The Murder House was set in present day LA. The second season, titled Asylum, was set in the 60s, I think. And this followed an asylum with nuns, and evil mad scientists from the Nazis and that. A Nazi scientist, and yeah, this had dark mode. The second season I feel was definitely darker, more frightening and more disturbing. See, the thing I find more disturbing than the actual program is the show's opening credits in the show, particularly Asylum. I think Asylum was probably my favourite one. This had like ghosts and aliens and serial killers, even that guy from Maroon 5 in there. So yeah, very dark season. Evil nuns. You know, what's more scarier than evil nuns? And I love that season. I've watched it a few times because it is my favourite one in the season. And yeah, this is number one in my rankings of American Horror Story seasons. So my number one pick is American Horror Story Asylum Season 2. So after that successful season, they decided to, do another one. And have the same cast members in it, of course, with some new ones. Like I say, in seasons 1 to 4, Jessica Lange was like the leading lady in this, the mother of the show. And she played Constance in season 1, The Murder House. She played Sister Jude Martin in season 2. And Sarah Paulson returned as a regular because she had a small part in season 1. She returned as the character Lana Winters in this second season. So season 3 was set in present-day New Orleans and it was called Coven. This time following a coven of witches. And they have in the Coven they have a supreme witch. And in this, it was Fiona, played by Jessica Lange, and then she had a daughter called Cordelia in it, who was played by Sarah Paulson. And they were all recruiting and training witches, or gifted women in this season. This was a good season too, and I enjoyed that one. They thought, okay, so we've had ghosts, we've had evil scientists and scary demonic nuns. Let's put witches into the spice now, and we got witches in this, third season. Also, by season 3, Kathy Bates joined, playing an evil historical woman named Delphine something, who treated slaves and humans, and she was a real person as well that Kathy Bates was playing in it, that tortured her slaves. We also got Danny Houston in there as the Axeman of New Orleans, who was a real killer, but his identity remained unknown. He was a character in this that was based on a real killer, the Axeman of New Orleans. So that was a good season. Again, I like that they took it in a different approach again. And Coven, I put that at number 5 on my rankings of this show. Season 3 at number 5 is Coven. So there we go. So season 4 came along and they thought, you know what, let's do something different again. Let's take something that's really disturbing and that they used to have back in the day. So they drew some inspiration from a 1931 horror classic called Freaks. And they took that format and they put it into the 4th season, making American Horror Story Freak Show. Now this again is another favourite season of mine, and particularly because I thought with them having a circusy theme, they're going to have clowns in there, and my god they did, and I love my clowns in horror, particularly Twisty the Clown, who was greatly inspired by real-life killer clown John Wayne Gacy, and he was my favourite character. He was short-lived in the series, but he was obviously a character favourite because he briefly appeared in the 7th season Cult. But I enjoyed this one, especially with the disturbingness. Sarah Paulson played conjoined twins in it. We had Evan Peters playing a lobster boy. We had some people. We actually had real. Well, I don't want to say freaks. That's a bit harsh, but real people with real conditions which would have put them in the freak show back in the day. We had Jessica Lange return as well as Elsa Mars, and this would be her last season. And yeah, it was a fun season, and for me, this was probably the last decent one for a while. I'm not saying it was the last decent one for good, but I guess sort of after Jessica Lange left, for me, I feel the show dipped in quality. So, the fourth and final season for Jessica Lange, it was a good fourth season. I very much enjoyed that one. So, American Horror Story Freak Show. This is my second favourite season, so it's number 2 on my rankings. Number 2 on my rankings of American Horror Story. Then, of course, 2015, we got a 5th season, and that 5th season was Hotel. And Jessica Lange was not in this one, but we had Lady Gaga in it, playing the Countess, who was a vampire. I thought, oh wow, bringing vampires into American Horror Story, but they were like the typical fanged vampires. They always like slit them and drank the blood. Season 5 also had a good dinner scene where notorious killers from the past all gathered, including John Wayne Gacy and the Zodiac Killer. This is not my favourite season, I'll be honest. To be honest, I watched about 3 episodes of season 5 when it first aired, and I was bored with it, and I never bothered watching it again. But then when it came to Netflix, and I thought, because I'm going to do a retrospective on American Horror Story, I thought I need to try and at least commit and and get through this, and I did. It was a bit painful, because like I say, this is not my favourite one. I know it was set in the Hotel Cortez or something, and they took a lot of fact and mixed it with the fiction in it, but yeah, this is just not my favourite season. And this is at the bottom of the rankings at number 9, Season 5, Hotel. So, yeah. Season 6 came along. Now, there was big mysteries and build-ups to Season 6, what the theme would be, and they teased it for so long until it actually premiered. And Season 6 was called Roanoke. So, Roanoke, I like what they actually did with this one. They actually took it in a different approach. Instead of giving us like a serial where it's like a whole build up to this big bad or whatever, they actually went in the route of mockumentary for the first half of the season. Roanoke, it was called My Roanoke Nightmare, and they staged it and set it up to like some like paranormal witness like documentary, and I liked that. I liked that they were doing something different there. It definitely felt fresh, and the 6th season did get off to a good start, but then as it went on, it turned into like a reality mock show, and yeah, I just didn't. I stuck to it. I stuck to it, and I watched it right to the end. In this, Sarah Paulson played an actress playing one of the characters in the reconstructions of the documentary stage thing, and we also had Cuba Gooding Jr. in this, who had worked with Paulson on another series called American Crime Story, which takes real life true crimes, and that I've only ever seen the first season, but yeah, back to American Horror Story. Yeah, I like that what they were trying to do. They were trying to go for something different, make it look reality, and in the finale of the season, we got the return of Lana Winters from Asylum, who, interviewed one of the survivors of the Roanoke Nightmare. And in Roanoke, it was like the ghost of the lost colony, and it focused on this house in Roanoke, where the butcher, played by Kathy Bates, had an evil. Well, she played the actress who played the butcher in it until she encountered the actual butcher. In this, we had different. We had it like focus around a house again in Roanoke, and the lost Roanoke colony came about. Yeah, like I say, it started off great. declined a bit in the middle, and but the end of it, I guess, was okay. But yeah, this I get that they were doing something different, uh, but yeah, I guess in the end it kind of just lowered in quality because there's only so much you can do with that. So, American Horror Story Roanoke season 6, I put that at number 6 in the rankings. So number 6, Roanoke. So season 7 came along, taking place in 2016, 2017, the presidential election. And of course, I guess real horror struck when Donald Trump took presidency. Our main characters in this didn't like it, and yeah, Evan Peters played a guy in it who was trying out for councilman, and he built a cult, gaining inspiration from real historical cults like John Jones, Charles Manson, and creating his own cult where they would dress as clowns and cause havoc and misery and terror. In this, we had the return of Sarah Paulson playing a woman. I can't remember her name now, but she was married to another woman in the show, and they had a kid. And then there was neighbours. We had some new recruits as well. We had not Eric Roberts. We had his daughter Emma Roberts return. She was in Coven, and then she came back in Freak Show, and I don't recall seeing her in Roanoke. She did cameo in Cult, which is season 7, Cult. And this, we got the return of Twisty the Clown in a few episodes, as he existed as a comic book character in the show. We had Billie Lourd join, who is the daughter of Carrie Fisher in this season, playing Winter, Evan Peters' character's sister. Yeah, this was, this was a bit of a weird one, but I guess they were like going with the whole theme of cults. Again, this had clowns in it, and anything with clowns in, I'm drawn to. So I enjoyed, a majority of this season. I just feel it could have ended a bit better as well, though, this season. But American Horror Story Cults, it's an okay one, but just not my personal favourite. This is at number 8 in my rankings of American Horror Story. By the way, all these rankings are all my personal opinion. No one has to agree with it, but yeah. So, 2018, season 8 came along, and in this one we had Apocalypse, American Horror Story Apocalypse, where we find out the main antagonist, Michael Landon, who is the grandson of Constance Langdon, and is the villain of the season, and he brings about a nuclear apocalypse, and is also looking for some, witch who is destined to be the next Supreme, called Mallory, played by Billie Lourd. And through time travel, or mental time travel, she manages, Cordelia manages to send her back and kill Michael before he discovers his true potential and his true powers, preventing the apocalypse from ever happening, which they succeed in. But of course, at the end, we discover that the Satanist cults, the Church of Satan, find that these two characters that we know that we first meet in the show, in the season, have a kid. At the end, they meet under different circumstances, have a kid, who then turns out to be the Antichrist. And Michael Langdon was the son of Vivian from season 1, and is the son of Satan, because, like I say, the Antichrist. He was a pretty cool villain. And in this season, we had the first few episodes take place in the post-apocalypse. The first episode had the apocalypse happen, but then we had the apocalypse for a few episodes where we had Sarah Paulson again play multiple roles. We had Kathy Bates play a Satanist cult worshipper, and then a robot version of her, and Sarah Paulson played this evil woman in it, until Cordelia. She also returned as Cordelia in this season. Because she played, I can't remember her other character in American Horror, in Apocalypse, but she played an evil, sadistic woman in that. Also, in as I forgot to mention, in season 4, there was a character called Pepper that went into the Asylum in season 2. That's when they confirmed that the show and all the seasons are in the same universe in different points in time. As I forgot to mention. So it's still the same universe, but I'm thinking, okay, but some of these actors, characters look like either. Well, there is a thing called doppelgangers, and in comedy shows like The League of Gentlemen, The Mighty Boosh, and all stuff like that, sketch shows that could share the same universe are all played by the same actors. If it works in comedy, it works in horror. At least I think, anyway. So yeah, we then have a whole flashback sequence. Then a majority of the season is all a flashback of Michael Langdon growing his powers and Cordelia and the Coven trying to stop it. Now, like I say, this was a crossover between Coven and the Murder House, so they definitely went back to the Murder House. And for a few episodes, or at least one full episode, we got the return of Jessica Lange as Constance. And I thought, oh yes, I've missed her. She returned in a guest role this time, but I thought that was good enough. I really missed her in the show. Will she return in the show? I don't know, but it was nice to see her. I like Jessica Lange. She's a quite a pretty actress for her age, 72 nearly. So anyway, yeah, Apocalypse. I put that at number 7 in my rankings. And then, of course, 2019 came along, and they went with the typical 80s slasher route. American Horror Story 1984, which focused around a camp. First bit of the season, it takes place in 1984. It turns into a slasher, with Mr. Jingles, who was the antagonist, but then in a big twist of events, it turns out he was never the antagonist. He was a Vietnam War veteran, and he had a dark history with the camp. And after this whole complex story with Jingles, he then tries to change his ways. He meets another character from Hotel, I can't remember his name, but he's some dislikable character who can't die. Anyway, we discover if you die on the camp, you become a ghost and you stay there forever, you can never leave. So, first few episodes were in 1984, then we went to 1985, then 1989, and then the series finale took place in what was at the time, present day, 2019, where Jingles' son, because Jingles had a son in it and started a family during the 80s and that, he investigates the whole history of the camp and his father, and he does see his father, and he gets away and survives at the end. And American Horror Story 1984, that to me has the happiest ending of all the seasons we've had. To me, 1984 had a happy ending, and I was very moved by that. I really enjoyed that season too, and it actually went on to become my third favourite season, as it's at number 3 in my rankings. So American Horror Story 1984, I like the title as well, how simple and basic it were, even though only the first bit of it took place in 1984. The rest took place in between 1985 and 1989, till then the last episode. And what our main antagonist was planning to do, played by Leslie Grossman, she was planning to get a concert here and have them all brutally murdered and then make a fortune on making it an attraction. She was an evil cow. Jingles, in the end, was never the villain. And he wanted to do good in this, and in the end he took his own life to stay there to make sure no evil escapes. We had other characters as well, including Emma Roberts. She returned as in fact, she returned as the star lead in this, because Sarah Paulson, she wasn't in this last season. No, she wasn't. Not even Evan Peters. No original cast members to my knowledge returned, except for the guy who I can't remember. He was in season 1 as the psychiatrist dad in it. He returned, but wasn't a main lead in it. But yeah, 1984 American Horror Story. I enjoyed that season. So we're pretty much up to date. So season 10 is expected to come on sometime this year. It might be by the time this video's up, because like I say, there have been 9 seasons at the making of this video. So yeah, 1984 is the most recent season. I don't know much about season 10 or what its theme is, but I do know that Macaulay Culkin of Home Alone fame has joined it, so that'll be interesting. We've only got like a teaser poster of it, so yeah. What will American Horror Story, season 10 be like? Also, the show's 10 years old now as well, so it'll definitely do something for its 10th anniversary. Anyway, yeah. I think I've talked enough now about American Horror Story. So, rankings of them. So, at number 9, it's Hotel. Number 8, it's Cult. Number 7, it's Apocalypse. Number 6, Roanoke. Number 5, Coven. Number 4, The Murder House. Number 3, 1984. Number 2, Freak Show. And number 1, Asylum. Those are my rankings of all American Horror Story seasons. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below. How would you rank them? What's your favourite season? Let me know all that down in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, share with your friends, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and to hit that notification bell. All my social media links are linked down below in the description, so be sure to check all that out. I've been Random Ross, and this has been Horror Talk. So, until next time, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, share with your friends. I don't know if I said that already, I can never remember, but yeah, until next time, don't have nightmares.